The third episode of The Expanse was really about recovery. We had seen this team go through this terrible set of circumstances. We had seen Miller sort of go over the top and kill the scientist who clearly deserved to die, but also was a valuable asset. And we've seen sort of there be a breakdown between trust between a lot of these characters. We've seen develop trust slowly throughout the series. This episode had a lot going for it, and I loved how they just handled the decompress from the previous episodes. The episode begins with Martian troops sort of having arguments with each other because the natural-born Martians hate the Earth-born Martians, and they get in a scuffle, and Bobby is criticized for them fighting. That's all we really see of the Martians this episode. After that, we see Fred talking to Miller, and basically he takes his gun and tells him, hey, you need to get off Tycho Station. You've caused enough trouble here. We thank you for your help, but you need to leave. So Fred tells Miller that, but Miller decides to go drinking after that. Of course, he feels sort of defeated, and he has this talk with Amos that I think is really interesting. And we figure out that Amos understands what Miller did. He actually probably would have done what Miller did in the same situation. But at the same time, we figure out that Miller supports, or I mean, not Miller, but we figure out that Amos supports Holden anyways, because it is true what Amos says, that Holden has morality out here, and that's something that's rare, and so he sort of looks up to him. So he basically says, I'm sorry, Miller, but you're going to have to leave. And so we have that conclusion. In the meantime, we sort of see Alex rerunning the flight simulation over and over and over to deal with guilt. And I really love how they portrayed Alex's guilt in this episode. It's really well done and very mute, and yet it was still very powerful. And I loved seeing that, how different characters dealt with their grief. Amos and Holden, at the same time, interrogate the scientist that they captured, and they figure out that his brain can't feel emotion anymore, because they try to get to him about, try to ask him about the protomolecule by telling him, hey, we know your mom died of this disease, but we can help cure that if you help us with the protomolecule. But it turns out that basically this prisoner, the scientist they captured, the part of its brain that feels emotion's been wiped. So they have to figure out how to get through to him without that. But Amos figures out that withholding information sort of works to get him to talk about the protomolecule. He sort of compares it to pedophilia, and it's very gross comparison, but at the same time, it allows Amos to draw information from the scientist that he wouldn't be able to get otherwise. So it was interesting to see him do that. Later in the episode, we see Alcivera sending a message to Fred. And basically, Fred says, okay, I'm going to decide to help you. Miller then goes to this Mormon church, and I thought it was very odd when I was first watching the episode. I was like, why is Miller going to a chapel to figure out about this ship? But then at the end of the episode, we figure out that Miller has a plan to basically destroy Eros by launching the Nauvoo into it, using the Nauvoo as a battering ram, which was insane, and I did not expect it all. And of course, I haven't read the books, but I thought that was really awesome. Just that he was able to think of that plan. So I love this episode because I hadn't mentioned Miller goes over to Diego's place, sort of that young belter, and he sort of bonds. And of course, Miller gets a new mohawk, but Miller and Diego are sort of developing a very organic friendship this season. I loved seeing their scenes together, talking about the belt and talking about the cause, and how Miller sort of seasoned a more veteran, and Diego just sort of seems like this guy who's gun-ho about everything, but he doesn't really know what's going on. So I really love seeing Miller and Diego's friendship blossom this episode. I love seeing Amos, sort of figuring out how to interrogate this guy. I thought that was very interesting. I loved Miller's plan being revealed at the end of the episode. I thought it was pretty amazing. And like I said earlier, I loved seeing Alex deal with his guilt. I thought it was really well done, especially with his character. And we'll probably see him dealing with more guilt as decisions become more high stakes in the future. So overall, I love Static. It was a great episode of The Expanse, but it wasn't quite up to par with the first two episodes, mainly because it was more of a decompressing episode. So I'd have to give Season 2, Episode 3 of The Expanse, Static, a 8.4 out of 10. I hope you've enjoyed this review. Remember to like and subscribe for more Expanse content. This has been Jonesy from Jonester TV signing off.